This is day 2 of trying to get a club from San Marino to win a European competition. On day 1, we defied expectations and qualified for the Conference League phase, and then lost every game that we played. But now we have a huge problem. We have no homegrown players, which means we have to leave 8 empty spots in our European squads. There is no way we can compete in Europe with just 17 players. So in day 2 of the San Marino challenge, we need to fix it. Basically, we need to start producing some better players from our youth academy. Or we poach young players from other clubs and keep them at the team for 3 years to get that homegrown status. With 3.1 million in the bank account, the board have agreed to upgrade our youth facilities to improve our academy prospects, and to also upgrade our training facilities to better improve the players when they reach the under-18 squad. There is a slight issue in the fact that the game is programmed to realise that San Marino isn't very good at producing young players. But it does know that Italy has a good reputation for it. So I'm also asking to improve our youth recruitment, which they agreed to, so hopefully we can go to some nearby Italian cities and recruit the best youngsters for our academy. But this isn't going to be an overnight fix, it's probably going to take a few years for us to actually see the benefits. Which is why my approach right now is to go and poach some of the best young talent from around the world. So I moved some of our transfer budget into the scouting budget so I could send scouts across the globe. Then we'll just offer contracts to anyone 18 years old or younger who's got 5-star potential. Which turns out to be quite a lot of players because our current squad isn't very good. So I went a little bit overboard and signed up 16 teenagers on free transfers across summer, and we'll have 2 more arriving when they turn 18 years old. The best part about this is there doesn't seem to be any work permit restrictions, which is why we now have 6 Brazilians in the squad, and they should all get homegrown status by the start of season 7. But given we're only at the start of season 4 right now, that is going to take some time. The pick of the bunch is new Brazilian striker Vladimir Cuco, who is good enough to start for us this season. But at the other end of the pitch, Spanish centre-back Nauzet should really improve things and help us keep more clean sheets. 6 of the new players are going straight into the first 11, which is either very encouraging or very concerning. But we'll find out after our Champions League first qualifying round game against Žalgiris Vilnius. Less than 2 minutes into the game, our new centre midfielder, Federico Caletta, raced into the penalty area, found a pass to our new left winger Paloko, who managed to slot his shot under the keeper and give us the lead. Moments later, Caletta was causing issues again, this time breaking through the defence and scoring himself to double our lead. But the Lithuanians weren't going to lie down easily, and they managed to pull one back. But we did restore our 2-goal lead just before half-time as Franzolini got on the end of a cross to head home a goal. Caletta was looking to add to his tally early in the second half, but was denied by the keeper. But Paleko wasn't. He fired his left-footed shot into the roof of the net to make it 4-1. And he was helped by a very fortunate deflection to complete his hat-trick on his debut to win the game 5-1. So yes, actually I think it is pretty encouraging that we have so many of these new players in the starting 11. Paleko is another one of our Brazilians who crossed the Atlantic to join us, whilst Caletta made the much shorter journey to join us from AS Roma. The second leg was a closer affair, but we still won and progressed as 8-3 winners on aggregate. But I think Shakhtar Donetsk are probably going to be too much for us in the next rounds. And sure enough, they were flexing their muscles within the first 15 minutes. But we didn't let them score until we gave away a penalty by pushing over one of their players from a free kick. Of course, they were very happy to open up the scoring from the spot. Now, whilst we may be building our own cohort of Brazilians, Shakhtar are the OGs when it comes to importing wonder kids, and their own Brazilian scored a terrific free kick. Somehow early in the second half, Shakhtar didn't add a third goal. In the end, they hit the crossbar, and towards the end of the game, they hit the woodwork again, which has really saved us today. So I think we did well not to concede from open play and only lose 2-0, but I do admit there was some luck involved in that. The luck ran out in the second leg though, as we did score, but only after Shakhtar scored 3 to win 5-1 on aggregate. So instead we dropped down into the Europa League, where we take on Dynamo Minsk in the third qualifying round. This feels like a winnable game, and if we can beat the Belarusians, we are guaranteed a European League phase spot. But we didn't learn from the Shakhtar game, and gave up a penalty 6 minutes in, which Dynamo Minsk put away to take the lead. And although the match stats say we're the stronger of the two sides, despite all of our efforts on goal, we just couldn't get a shot in the back of the net. That was until the 66th minute, when a short free kick to Coletta allowed him to fire through a crowd of players and get us back on level terms. But we let our guard down and allowed Dynamo Minsk to get forward, split our defence and retake the lead of the game, eventually winning the match 2-1. We're going to have to be at our very best in the second leg if we want to win. And luckily for us, Enzo Gabriel scored the only goal of the 90 minutes, meaning we have to go to extra time, where centre-back Nauzet fired a low shot past the keeper to give us the lead before Kakavo put the result beyond all doubt, meaning we progress as 4-2 winners. And if we can beat Derry City in the final qualifying round, we'll make the Europa League. But if we lose this game, we drop down into the Conference League phase, so whatever happens, it feels like a win-win. Velarde almost gave us the lead 2 minutes in. In fact, I'm still unsure as to how he didn't score. And he also missed the target 10 minutes later. When Cuoco also managed to put his effort wide of the mark, it felt like it just wasn't going to be our day, and we head into the break drawing 0-0. Derry came back onto the pitch the stronger of the two sides, just missing the target early in the half, and then somehow putting a shot wide of the mark after a poor punch from our keeper. But late in the game, Coletta picked up the ball and beat his man on the dribble, flung a cross into the middle, and substitute Kakavo headed it home to give us an all-important lead going into the second leg. But in the 83rd minute of the second leg, Derry managed to find an equaliser, and then 2 minutes later, a winner. All our hard work, and we get knocked out of the final qualifying round of the Europa League. But again, I'll wipe away my tears with the £2.5 million we get for making the Conference League phase, where we're going to have another shot at Dynamo Minsk as we look to win our first ever league phase game. Federico Coletta scored the first goal of the league phase for us, following a beautifully worked move. And we then doubled our lead thanks to an own goal. Kakavo then extended it to 3 in the second half, before 5 goals were scored in the final 10 minutes. Minsk scored the first 2 to make it 3-2, and it made us very worried. But we managed to extend our lead with a goal from our new left-back Medaglia. But then Minsk scored another goal to threaten a comeback, but we managed to score a 5th right at the death to win the game 5-3 and pick up our first ever win in a European League phase. And it wasn't our only win. Mario Velarde scored the only goal of the game against Karabag to secure another 3 points. We also picked up another 3 points with 3 draws against some very decent sides, meaning we only ended up losing to Rangers, which incredibly means we finish in the top 24 of the league phase and qualify for the knockout rounds, completing our second milestone of the challenge. I do realise that there is now a huge gap to the third milestone. But if we want to progress, we'll need to beat Astana in the playoff knockout round. At the same time, we've also been dominating the domestic league and look set for another title. So against Astana, we almost got off to the perfect start as Cuoco got on the end of a bad back pass, but the keeper made a huge save. Centre-back Perone had to make a big save of our own at the other end of the pitch, denying Astana a tap-in. And as a result, we were able to race up to the other end of the pitch, catch out the defence, and open up the scoring thanks to Mario Velarde. We also had a rapid start to the second half as Coletta found Cuoco, who held up play nicely, gave the ball back to Coletta, who dodged the challenge and scored our second of the night. But Astana decided enough was enough, and finally got their act together as they put a great cross into the middle and pulled back a goal. And then on the hour mark, they scored a spectacular free kick to level the scores. But we weren't going to give up and a couple of substitutes reignited the fire as Corbari put in a low cross to Cuoco, who put us back in front. And crucially, in the 6th minute of 4 minutes of added time, Franzolini's free kick took a huge deflection to take it past the keeper, meaning we win in Kazakhstan 4-2. All we have to do now is hold it together for the home leg and we'll progress. But an early penalty for Astana made us nervous. However, Velarde was able to find an open Coletta in the middle to get us back on level terms. And then he went on to score himself early in the second half to win the overall tie 6-3. How on earth are we going to the round of 16? This is absolutely mental. But I think Fiorentina will be too strong for us, in what's actually not far off a local derby game. And as predicted, Fiorentina were the much better side when they came to our place, putting 3 goals past us and reminding us how much work we need to do to get onto a level playing field with them. And although we did draw the second leg 2-2, the match stats show the real story of the game and just how much progress we have to make. So we may be out of Europe, but this has been our best season yet. Just after the Fiorentina game, we got our youth intake, which doesn't look great, but it's our best yet. Either way, we'll sign a few and hope they develop into something good down the line. We also get to do the Champions League all over again next season as we dominated the league table, dropping just 4 points all season. This season's signings, Cuoco, Coletta and Paleko, have certainly made a big impact going forwards with a ridiculous number of goals and assists between them. But I think this season has proved we might be able to cut it with the big boys and we deserve a seat at the table. In fact, a seat just like this one. FlexiSpot sent me over the BS12 Pro chair and it's been an immediate upgrade on my old chair. It arrived in a really well packaged box and took me about 20 minutes or so to put together. As you can tell from these videos in particular, I am sat at my desk all day, every day pretty much. So it's really important I have a chair that looks after my body. And this chair has been the best that I've owned. I'm 6'4" and I often find the lumbar support on chairs is way too low. But this one actually gets to the right height that I need it. And because I've got long legs, I can actually move the base of the seat forwards so I don't just slide off or need to use my legs to support myself. And I really like the look of it too. I've never been a huge fan of the typical gamer chairs. I think this looks a lot more sleek. Plus it pairs very nicely with my FlexiSpot sit-stand desk that I've been using for the last few years now. Over the next few days, FlexiSpot have got a huge sale coming up. So you can get some great discounts on their website, which I'll leave a link to down in the top line of the description. Because of how well we did in Europe last season, San Marino now has a 3rd Conference League spot. We're slowly building up the league, which is pretty cool to be fair. We've been drawn against an unpronounceable team from Lithuania in the Champions League first qualifying round, which we should win. To keep our players progressing, we upgraded our training facilities and academy, but I couldn't ask for an upgrade to our youth facilities. This season I called it off with the transfers, instead mostly going for older, more experienced players to tutor last season's huge influx of youngsters. Christian Scorza, hopefully a lot, adds depth to our midfield, whilst Francesco Salvamini can play anywhere in our attack to provide some cover. But it wouldn't be a transfer window without a young Brazilian, and Celso Young might just be the future star that we crave. But none of our new additions could stop the Lithuanians opening up the scoring at our place, and they prevented us having a single highlight in the first half. But finally we had a chance in the 64th minute as we got the ball to Vladimir Kuko, whose wonderful effort beat the keeper to level the scores. And it was new boy Celso Young who provided the assist for the 2nd goal from a corner to take the lead. But somehow we couldn't get ourselves a 3rd goal as Velarde hit the crossbar and Cuoco missed an open goal. So instead Velarde did it the hard way, firing through a crowd of bodies to put the ball in the back of the net. And to cap off a great comeback, Celso Young scored on his debut to announce himself to the La Fiorita faithful. He celebrated by making sure everyone in the crowd was subscribed to the channel. It was a great fight back, and coupled with a 1-0 win away from home, we progressed to the 2nd qualifying round where we have a grudge match against Derry City. This season, we didn't want to make the same mistakes as last season. But somehow, we just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net, with goal line technology confirming the ball didn't cross the line. Just like last season, every chance we had, we just couldn't score. It felt like there was a magnet pulling the ball away from the net, meaning we go into the break level despite being the way better side. Which of course means that less than 30 seconds into the second half, Derry scored the first goal of the game. This allowed them to grow into the match as we got more and more frustrated, which meant they doubled their lead 64 minutes in. So in the end, Derry won 2-0 in what feels like a smash and grab result. Who had Derry City being our biggest rivals on their bingo card. In Londonderry, we took the lead through Mario Velarde, and then we made it 2-2 on aggregate thanks to Celso Young, meaning we had to go to extra time, where we thought we'd won the tie in the 120th minute when Velarde scored his second of the game, but we just couldn't hold on for another 60 seconds as Derry tied it right at the death to send us to penalties. Both sides were able to score their first 3 penalties until Boyce missed for Derry and we scored to give ourselves the advantage. But as Derry scored the 5th penalty, Nowset missed the chance to win, taking us to sudden death. Both sides scored their next 2 penalties to stay on level terms, but once again, Derry faltered, which gave Velarde the chance to win us the tie, but he couldn't. Derry's 9th penalty was scored by their goalkeeper, which gave him the confidence to save David's penalty and once again beat us in Europe. I actually hate Derry City. So we drop into the Europa League where we're taking on Sheriff from Moldova. And luckily we won a penalty early on. But clearly affected by the Derry game, we hit the post. However, we did break the deadlock in the 75th minute as Paleko split the defence and Cuoco finished off the move. And literally seconds later, he intercepted the ball, sprinted towards goal, and scored a powerful effort to double our lead. But Sheriff had an answer and scored a goal of their own 5 minutes from time. However, straight from the kickoff, we worked the ball forwards. Coletta and Cuoco played a neat 1-2, and Coletta restored our 2-goal lead, meaning we have some breathing room in the second leg, where we dominated. We beat Sheriff and won 3-0. Now, if we can beat Olimpia Ljubljana, we'll make the Europa League for the first time. But despite chances for both sides in the first half, it seemed like both teams were allergic to putting the ball in the back of the net as we head into the break 0-0. Finally though, the deadlock was broken, unfortunately by Ljubljana, who won a header at the far post. And then in the final few seconds of the game, we deflected a cross straight into the path of their striker, who won the game for Ljubljana 2-0. They then beat us 3-0 at their place to comprehensively knock us out of the Europa League. Of course, this means we drop into the Conference League instead. But this season, we have some very tough fixtures compared to what we had last time out. To my surprise, we comfortably beat Sparta Prague 2-0 to get our first 3 points of the Conference League phase. And we just about beat Greek side PAOK 2-1 at home. But we also lost a couple of our games, which means we didn't do as well as last season. Luckily though, we were just able to qualify for the knockout stages by finishing 20th in the table, and in the playoff knockout round, we're once again taking on Dynamo Minsk. We were on the front foot from the first minute of the game, as Celso Young hit the post from distance. But when he was given a second chance, he wasn't going to make the same mistake again. However, Minsk were able to match us and scored from a low cross of their own to level the scores. But luckily for us, we didn't stay level for long, as some neat passing and movement allowed us to get ahead just 3 minutes later. We were really able to stretch Minsk, as Young opened up the defence and Coletta played a wonderful pass into Velarde, who made it 3. Early in the second half, we pulled off a very similar move for Cuoco to this time get us the goal, but Minsk were able to get one back as they were the quickest to react after a free kick rebounded off the post. But we made sure to restore the 3-goal lead, as Maselli got himself on the score sheet late in the game to win the first leg 5-2. A comfortable 2-1 win in the second leg ensured we make the round of 16 for the second season in a row. And yes, I am fully aware of the irony that this episode is all about how we can't progress in Europe because we've not got any homegrown players and we can only have a squad of 17, and yet we've got the furthest we have done ever in the Europa Conference League. Maybe it's just our superpower. But I think we're going to need some kryptonite to beat Newcastle United in the round of 16. And we did take the lead 15 minutes into the first leg. But that was about all we could celebrate, as Newcastle came back in the second half with 3 of their own goals to take the advantage. But we also scored first at St James's Park to give us a glimmer of hope, until Newcastle once again scored 3 of their own to batter us 6-2 on aggregate and knock us out of Europe. The day we beat a team from the Premier League or Serie A or any of the other top 5 leagues from Europe will be a day to remember. So we can now focus on our youth intake, which turns out it was so bad our head of youth development didn't recommend signing any of them. As you would expect, we once again won the title with an invincible season to start up again next season in the Champions League first knockout rounds. 10 of Celso Young's goals were scored in European games, and if he can make the step up next season, we could maybe see him hit 15. So heading into season 6, we've made some nice improvements to the club's facilities. Obviously though, we can do better. But again, for some reason, I can't ask for an improvement to our youth facilities, so they're still lagging behind. We do at least get the training ground upgraded and the other youth-related focuses. Transfers were hard to come by, but Delmas was the first of 2 transfers we made early doors. He'll start on the right wing, whilst Miura replaces Perrone at left centre-back and is arguably the best player at the club. They were the only transfers to arrive before we take on Spartans from Malta. And it was new boy Delmas who got the first goal of the game, arriving at the far post as everyone in front of him missed the ball to score a tap-in. Federico Coletta then scored a pile driver from a well-worked training ground routine to double the lead heading into the break. Early in the second half, Delmas turned provider as he squeezed in a low cross from Celso Young to finish off the move. And then new centre-back Miura also scored on his debut as he rose the highest to score from a corner. But the final moments of the game did remind me we're still just a small club from San Marino with some dodgy players, following a comedy of errors and not leading to a goal. So a 4-0 win is superb, but an 11-0 win at home is even better as Celso Young scored 4 goals which got other clubs interested, like Arsenal. But they only made an offer of £20,000. Celso Young's goals to get us further in European competitions are worth so much more money than Arsenal are putting on the table right now. So although he now hates me, I keep rejecting their bids. He's under contract for another 3 seasons, so we can just keep rejecting these bids for a while. I've also been busy signing a bunch of teenagers with 5-star potential, according to our scouts, who will join the club once they turn 18 years old. Notably, Massé Sarr becomes the first player that we've paid money for. A staggering £27,000 for the Senegalese winger from Oslo Football Academy. He will slot straight into the team when he moved on his 18th birthday in August. Up next, we have Maccabi Haifa, who beat us in the 3rd qualifying round back in Season 2. Well, this time we travelled to their place and took the lead 20 seconds into the second half through Delmas. We then doubled our lead 10 minutes later as Paleko stole a goal on the line, but had to battle a comeback as Maccabi Haifa scored not once, but twice to level the scores heading into the final few moments of the game. But Celso Young had something to say about that, as he got the match winner in the 95th minute of the game to give us the advantage, which we made full use of as we battered them 5-1 at our place to progress to the Champions League 3rd qualifying round for the first time since Season 2, where we lost to Maccabi Haifa. Poetry, isn't it? Even weirder though, we've been drawn against Maribor. Now in Season 2, after we lost to Maccabi Haifa, we dropped into the final Europa League qualifying round and lost. But can you guess who the team was that beat us? That's right, it was Maribor. So this is another grudge match that we're heading into. Maribor are a good side though, so we have to rely on them making mistakes, which is exactly what they did with a poor pass, which allowed Celso Young to open up the scoring 27 minutes into the game. We came agonisingly close to doubling our lead just before half time as Peleco's header went wide of the post. And as a result, Maribor were able to get back on level terms a few minutes later. I was about to applaud Enzo Gabriel for an incredible last-ditch tackle until David then brought down his man unfairly, giving Maribor a penalty. The worst part is I had literally just arranged to sub him off, so that was his last bit of action in the game. But obviously, Maribor scored to take the lead and win the first leg 2-1. We felt like we had a chance in the second leg. But once again, David gave away a penalty, which Maribor went on to score. Celso Young did pull a goal back for us 25 minutes into the game, but it was too little too late. 2 penalties given away by the same player mean we get kicked out of the Champions League. Looking at the positives though, we are at least guaranteed a spot in a European League phase. And if we can beat Maccabi Haifa for a second time this season, we'll be in the Europa League for the first time. But now we have Masay Sarr to help us get there. So he was in the team for the first leg and was looking to make an impact. But it was his partner in crime on the left-hand side, DeLuca, that created the first goal of the game as we took the lead 20 minutes in. 5 minutes later and Celso Young decided he wanted to score goals rather than take corners. So he did, as we were in complete control of the game heading into half-time. But in the second half, Miura was judged to have fouled his man in the area, giving up yet another penalty, which they went on to score. But we restored our 2-goal lead when Celso Young scored an inch-perfect free kick, which was fortunate as Maccabi Haifa scored again in the 94th minute. So we carry a very narrow advantage into the second leg. But that lead evaporated 3 minutes into the game. And then we were put on the back foot when they scored a second goal 10 minutes in to make it 4-3 on aggregate. Luckily for us though, Peleco managed to score 50 minutes into the game and take us to a nervy extra time, where once again Maccabi Haifa took the lead of the game. But finally, new boy Sarr got his first assist for the club as Celso Young scored, taking us to penalties. Franzolini was up first and he scored, but so did Piero for Maccabi Haifa. In fact, both teams just kept scoring to keep piling up the pressure on the next person taking the shot. But they didn't crumble until it came to Norzet, who had his effort saved. If Feingold scores, we lose. So once again, it's the Conference League for us, which I shouldn't be upset about. This challenge is all about trying to get a team from San Marino to win any European competition. But I really want to challenge ourselves at a higher level. But maybe we aren't ready for that level yet, as we lost 2-1 to Austria Wien, 1-0 to Olympiakos, and 2-1 away from home to Swiss side Grasshoppers. But then we did manage to beat SK Sturm Graz 3-1 away from home, Polish side Pogon 1-0 at our place thanks to Delmas, and then we battered Riga by an incredible 7-0 scoreline to finish a respectable 18th place and once again reach the knockout stages of the Conference League. Here we're going to be strengthened by Yassine Ben Slimane, who just turned 18 years old and joined the club. He looks like he's going to be an incredible playmaker. So he'll be starting for us in the playoff knockout round against Swedish side AIK. We didn't make a decisive move until the second half, when a string of neat passes ended up at the feet of Delmas, whose shot was too powerful for the keeper. But AIK's free kick was also too powerful for our keeper, as they quickly got back on level terms. And we couldn't take the lead of the game again, missing golden opportunities that I feel like we would ordinarily be burying. So we end the home leg in a 1-1 draw. And when AIK scored first in Sweden, I thought we were out of the competition. But we fought back to equalise through Delmas, and moments later, Coletta gave us the lead in the tie. He then turned provider for Delmas to dismantle AIK at their own back garden to once again make the round of 16. But West Ham at this stage might just be a step too far. Mohamed Kudus gave the Iron the lead just before half-time. But we managed to pull one back with Celso Young. And then, incredibly, we took the lead of the game and actually looked in control, until our keeper passed the ball to West Ham's players and they equalised. But the only reason they scored in that game was from a dead ball situation and a dodgy pass from our keeper. I actually think we could have won that game and we might stand a chance in London. Or not. They absolutely battered us 4-0 to knock us out of Europe. But our exploits in the competition has meant our domestic league is now ranked 33rd in coefficient rankings, up 22 places from the start of the video, which is great. This should mean that better players will want to join the club to help us win a European competition. Obviously, we went on to win the league title once again by a monumental margin. So I feel like we are getting better season on season, but it's now 3 years in a row we've lost at the round of 16 stage in the Conference League. However, this summer is when all of our young players we got in Season 4 get their homegrown status. We now have 8 homegrown players at the club, so we can finally register a full squad of players for European football. Maybe now we will be unstoppable. But that's a story for another day, as we've come to the end of day 2. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss day 3 when it comes out, where I feel like we're going to have a really big breakthrough in European football.